Hello, so here we go today. So with today's class, we'll be reading about a situation this lady is going through. So this is in the Guardian newspaper, and so let's flick over to the story itself. Here we go. So let's just give the credit to the Guardian. So thank you, Guardian, for producing these articles. We tend to go to the Guardian because it is free. They don't charge me anything. So here we go. So I'll read the title. So it's under this sort of general title of death and dying. Okay, so it says, I have stage 4 cancer, and I believe it's this lady below in the photo we just looked at. Then it says, there will be no cure, but death isn't necessarily imminent. This is how it feels to live in the long middle. So, okay, so that's quite thought-provoking. So necessarily, I'm sure most of you know that word, hopefully. What does imminent mean? Imminent. Anyone know?
Immediately?
Yeah, that's right. You could say right now, pretty much right now. So when we're talking about death and we say imminent, it means in the next day or two or month maybe or week, something like that. But if we
I think
say,
it's
yeah, go on.
it's something you can't avoid, imminent,
Yes, uh,
unavoidable.
yeah, I think that's true. Yes, there's an idea of it being unavoidable and quite soon. That's true. Very true. Thank you very much. Okay. But then it includes this idea at the end, the long middle. Now, what do you think that means? So this is how it feels to live in the long middle. Now, I don't actually know. So,
Time?
yeah, it's something with time, but what is
Time.
she? There's another idea hidden in there, I think. It might be, as we read the article, this idea of whatever the long middle is, that might be revealed to us as we read the article. So bear that idea in mind. We want to try and discover what the meaning of this phrase is, the long middle. So she's talking about living or being alive in the long middle. Okay, so bear that in mind. So let me read
Middle.
this title to you here. So when when you are cured, the world cheers. When you are dying, it mourns. But when you are simply maintaining, the world is at a loss. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? So everyone sheds a tear. Oh, so when you die, everyone sheds a tear. And when you're cured, everyone says, yeah, wonderful, you're cured. But
Mm.
what about the people who are, they're just sort of going along. They're facing death at some point in the future. And there is no cure, but it's sometime in the future. So that's sort of a strange situation. You can't sort of cheer for them, and you can't really you won't mourn them because they're not dead yet. Yeah, it's a tricky situation. So any questions about this little thing I just read out now? Any words there, like perhaps mourns? Everyone know what mourns is? So when somebody
So,
dies, you're obviously very sad if you know them normally. And you can, if you're sad, you can say you're mourning their death. So you're in mourning. So it sounds like the first part of the day called morning, isn't it? First part of the day. So after morning, you have afternoon and evening. But this is a different spelling and a different meaning. So if you're in a state where you're if you're mourning something, it means you're regretting its loss. Normally it'd be death, of course, but it could be a job. It could be lots of things. It could be divorce. If you get divorced, you could go through a mourning experience. You
sorry, can we
experience that.
say it also? Sorry, please.
Yeah, carry on.
Can we say also about children? His morning
For children, yeah, I would have
children.
thought.
Yes. When you
So
want, for example,
the
to go to the
lack.
park and stay morning till the morning to because he didn't went somewhere. Can say it, no?
No, normally with mourning, the word mourning, it's the sadness of a severe or serious lack of something. If you say I'm mourning my lack that I didn't go to the park today, it doesn't do the word justice. This is a much more heavy and serious word, I would say.
Okay.
So you read to it's death. You've just lost your job, or you've lost your partner in that they've been divorced. It, that's quite serious things like that. And this
Okay.
other morning here, this is the time of day, of course.
Yes.
Time
Okay.
of
Yes.
day.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So there's a little credit below the photo. It says Janice Chen. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. I don't know if I'm correct or not. Then it says in quote marks, I stopped measuring my life in weeks and began the audacious task of calibrating. Actually, I was going to say celebrating there, but I'm wrong. Calibrating it in decades. And then there's a credit for the photograph. So Stephen Burke, the Guardian newspaper. So Janice appears to be the writer of this article, and it appears that she is the lady that's dying, I think. But I haven't read the article, so perhaps I'm slightly wrong. So any words here that don't make sense to you, or you just don't know the meaning, or you want to practice pronouncing them. So this is
Could you explain, please, about the
mhm.
word calibrating?
Okay. Let me just read the whole thing again. So let me take the meaning in myself. There's just that one line there. So I stopped measuring my life in weeks. So often we're thinking about, oh, what will I do this week, next week? I'm planning going on holiday. I've got enough money in the bank account to do this, that, or the other in the next day or two, that sort of thing. So I stopped measuring my life in weeks and then began the audacious task of calibrating it in decades. So if you're calibrating something, you're sort of you could say you're sort of measuring it or you're adjusting it in a particular way for accuracy. When you calibrate something, it's really sort of thinking about it and getting into an accuracy of a to do a particular job. So if you're when you're with your car, you need to get the right amount of air in the tires in the wheels so that they're not too much air in them and not too little
Okay,
air. So you need to measure, or let's say calibrate, how much air goes into the tires. Does that make
okay. It
sense?
is means like a maintain and set up, yeah?
Yeah, maintain and set up. That's probably a bit more of an industrial use of the word. Yes, yeah, that's true. So let's pop it into the dictionary just for clarity. Oh, look, personal. So there's two words which are similar. This is personal, and the one that's similar to this word on the screen but different is personnel. So there's
Yeah.
personal and personnel. That
Personal.
came up recently. So I've just start calibrating into the dictionary. And it says so. It's shortened it down to calibrate. So if you calibrate an instrument or tool, you mark or adjust it so that so that you can use it to measure something accurately. So it's about measurement and accuracy. That's the two ideas I think, which is main ideas that are in that word. Um, I scrolled down for the okay, there's nothing there. Okay, so measurement and accuracy. No, wrong page, wrong wrong story, wrong photo. I got there eventually. Here we go. Okay, so and what about audacious? What does audacious mean? If something is audacious, what could you say that it is?
With
Nick,
others.
say again.
With others, so you don't, you are not shy to do it. You need to be strong and do it
Yeah.
without to
Mm.
it's like challenge.
Yeah, there is that idea. I think you've had it. Is that a guess? You've done quite well. Yes. So if something's audacious, it's it's a very big task. It might be too big for you to do, or perhaps even for anybody. And we're talking about life and death here, and she's facing death, and so it's a very difficult thing to face. And so that sort of makes it audacious. Yes. So do you want to practice the word audacious for a second? Do you want to say audacious for me? I
Yes.
suppose that, yeah, just practice it out loud. Audacious. Do you want to just say it then, for Dua?
Audacious.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's it. Yes. Very.
Audacious.
So although it starts with an AU, the sound it makes at the beginning is this sort of aw sound, aw. So audacious, audacious. So someone is,
Audacious.
yeah, that's it. So someone who is audacious takes risks in order to achieve something. Yeah, that's good. So
I was audacious to be online today.
interesting. Good way of putting it, yes. So similar words would be daring, enterprising, brave, bold. Yeah, so bold and brave are very similar meanings there. But to my mind, there's also the idea that it's a difficult task you're trying to accomplish, and that's why its risks are involved. So, but they're emphasizing it being daring, enterprising, brave, and bold as the meaning. I found the article again. There we go. Okay, so Michael is over to you. So this is the article, of course, here. So read as much or as little as you fancy. Stop whenever you want to.
Yeah, it's quite difficult article.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, mornings begin with a silent inventory conducted in the dark before the curtains are drawn. Can I breathe easily today? The question is stripped of all poetic veneer. When you have stage 4 lung cancer, breath is no longer a background process. It is a finite currency I must spend with the caution of a miser. It dictates the architecture of my day, borders of my energy, and the very cadence of my speech. I am not a survivor in the triumphalist sense of the word, nor am I imminently dying. I occupy the lone middle, a rarely charted territory where the body remains fragile, treatment constant, and life does not so much move forward as stubborn persist. This liminal state is a distinctly modern byproduct of a medical revolution. In the UK, barely a decade ago, a stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis was a grim cliff edge. When the NHS standard was rooted, it was rooted in traditional chemotherapy. Long-term survival remained in the single figures. Today, the momentum of clinical progress, driven by the maturing precision of immunotherapy and the success of targeted therapies, has leveled the precipice into a vast, uncharted plateau. While median survival is now measured in years rather than months, we are seeing the emergence of super responders navigating their second decade post-diagnosis. As a psychologist, I view this not just a medical victory, but as a profound existential shift. We have replaced the suddenness of the cliff with the tenuous permanence of the high ridge. All
Yes.
right. All right.
Yes. Well done. Very good. Very, very good. So I thought that was very good, actually. You gave it. It's interesting. At the beginning, you were a little bit rusty at the beginning, and as you got going, you got better and better and better. And by the end, you were fantastic. I thought, well done, very good. So, any words there that were a bit not quite sure of the meaning or the pronunciation?
There are many
Oh,
words.
uh,
Uh, which I don't know
Okay.
meaning. The question is stripped of all poetic veneer.
Mm.
I know veneer. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
like like prosthetic
Kind of. Yeah.
teeth that you cover the
Yeah.
bad teeth. You set up veneer and you have a Hollywood smile
Ah.
without, like,
Yes.
and it's
Okay, let me just say then. So my understanding of the word veneer when I first came across it as a child was perhaps in making things out of wood. So you might make something out of wood, a little cabinet or a little cupboard or something, and you could then cover it in veneer. And the veneer was a very high, would normally be a very high quality wood. So you might make the thing out of really cheap, even rubbish wood, but you stick the veneer on the outside and it looks like it's really expensive wood that you've used. Does that make sense? And that was
mm,
veneer wood. And so the idea of veneer is a very thin layer of something. And normally it's the good things. You're talking about but here they're saying the poetic veneer. So we might use poetry when we're dying, I guess. But in truth, we're crying inside and it's just the poetry is just a thin outer layer. So an outer layer, yes. So that and that's sort of what you were saying, I think. Okay, so does that make sense? So what else there is there then? Anything else there? Does that make
stage for
sense? Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. When you it's understand background process, it's a finite currency. I must spend finite. It's like French word finita la commedia. It's end of the comedy. It's like end of something.
Oh
Finite,
yeah, no, here it's finite. We
finite.
pronounce as
Yeah,
finite in English anyway.
finite,
Um,
finite.
so it means a definite and limited amount of something. A definite and limited amount. If you say something is infinite, that means there's
Yeah,
an
yeah.
unmeasured amount of it. You might say there's an almost infinite amount of water in the sea.
Infinite. Yeah,
There isn't quite an infinite amount, but there's certainly a lot of it. Yeah, that's that. Yeah. So infinite. Finite, I should say here. This is finite.
finite currency.
So finite. So phi and then night. Finite.
Finite,
Yeah.
finite.
Finite. Yeah. A fi let's just say those three words together. So sometimes it's much more helpful to say put a word we're struggling with to put it in a sentence, I think, isn't it? So well, let's go back to here actually. So it is. So it is a finite currency I must spend. So it is a finite currency I must spend. Just want to say that again. Finite.
It is a finite.
Yeah.
It is a finite currency I must spend.
Spot on. You can't get any better than that. That was good. Very, very good. Down the end of that sentence was this word here on the end. So I would read this word as, or this sentence as, with the caution of a miser. With the caution of a miser. Do you notice that little bit too there?
with with the caution of a miser.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I think you said miser slightly differently when you read it out originally,
I
but
am
that's it. You
miser,
got it.
miser,
Ah, yeah, that's right.
miser.
So we say miser. So if someone's a
Yes.
miser, it means they're very cautious with spending their money. So you don't really want a friend who is a miser because they don't spend money. They get you to spend their money, so your money on them. Oh, if that makes any sense. So a miser doesn't
Yes,
really spend their money.
and miserable. It's for this word root related with
It would make sense, wouldn't it? I think so. Yeah. So miser and miserable. Yeah. I think they're probably related. Yeah. And then there's a French word miserable, isn't there?
mm,
Or yeah, miserable. I'm not saying that quite correctly, but there we go. Okay. So and the rest of it, anything else?
it dictates the architecture of my day. It's
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, it's dictate the plan of my days. It's the
Yes,
meaning.
that's it. Or
What
the
I will
shape.
do.
Let's say the shape might be a good way of putting it. The shape of my day. That's how I might, if I was going to put different words in there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, good. Anything else?
The bodies of manage and the very cadence
Yeah, that
of
almost. So, very cadence of my speech, very cadence.
cadence.
So cadence. So here they're using it perhaps in a musical sense. So I think cadence has the idea of steps. The word in behind the word, it's isn't it steps, isn't it?
Like when you're walking, you have cadence,
Yeah, but
cadence of work or fork walking.
I don't know if we really use it that way. But there is the
Mm.
I think that is that in the French, is it? Cadence.
Yeah, sorry.
So, but in the English, it doesn't really come through in the English. So let's hear what it says
My
here. So
brain is
no,
my
no,
brain
it's
is
no, it's
still
good to hear that.
translating. I
Yeah,
just begin
yeah.
to improve my English, so
Okay, so
sometimes okay.
no, no, let's carry on though. So the cadence of someone's voice is the way their voice gets higher and lower as they speak. So you could say it's going
Mm,
up in steps or down in steps. That's sort of the idea in the background, but it doesn't say the word steps, does it? So,
mm,
but they say similar words might be the intonation, accent, inflection, modulation. So all of these words mean pretty much the same thing, really. So, and the last one is a cadence is the phrase that ends a section of music and completes a piece of music. Sorry, but there are other meanings too, but for whatever reason, I don't seem to have them on the screen. For instance, there's a word. If you drive a car, there's what's called cadence braking. You can brake your car using cadence braking, and that's in steps, which that clearly comes more from the French idea, doesn't it? So it seems a bit lacking in the definitions here sometimes. But or maybe I'm giving it. So this is to do with the tone of her voice. Where is it very high, very breaks up a little bit? Okay. So this is quite well written, in fact, very well written, using very interesting words. So anything else there, Michael? So do you want to just say that again, actually? So very cadence of my speech. Just want to practice that a little bit there, Michael.
Very, very cadence of my speech.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah. Again, you can't get any better than that. It's very good. So anything else there?
Which one? I'm not a survivor in the triumphalist sense of the word.
Hmm.
Triumphalist sense. Triumph, it's like victory. It's like you achieve something.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But triumphalist sense in the triumphalist
Mm.
sense.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So let's just do the word. So triumphalist. Triumphalist.
Triumphalist.
Yeah.
triumphalist.
That's right. Um, yeah. So if you're a triumphalist, I suppose really. So remember we read at the beginning of the article about it was saying something like if you survive something or perhaps survive cancer, everyone gives a cheer. Yeah. And if you're giving a cheer, you might say you're enjoying the triumph of something. We had a victory over cancer. It's a great triumph. Well done. Yeah. And so this extra meaning on the end, or ending, I should say, it's just using the word in a different sense, really, isn't it? Does that make sense? The way we're using it in this sentence, it requires having the a list on the end of it. So in the triumphalist sense, does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's the meaning of the word. But to be correct, it really needs that ending on the end of it in that sense. So let me just say, so the word survivor, your V's are pretty good. I'd give them sort of an 80%, your V's there, but they were just a little bit, could be a little bit stronger, the V's, I think. So let's read that half a sentence again. I'll read it to you. So I'm not a survivor in the triumphalist sense of the word. So I missed out the T on the end of it when I said triumphalist. So I'll try again then. So triumphalist. So there's a bit of a T there. So over to you again. Once more that sentence. And survivor is the word we're practicing too.
I am not a survivor in
Yes.
the triumphalist sense of the word.
Oh, yeah,
Word
really good.
on the
Yeah.
word of the word.
Yes. So the W is tricky here too. Yeah, that's good.
Word.
Yeah, word. Yeah, word.
Word.
Yeah, that's
Word.
yeah, that's it. So yeah, you got that one, I think. Yeah, good, good. Carry on. Anything else?
Sorry, a rarely charted territory. What
Mm.
does mean charted?
So here a chart. So if you find a new territory, so let's say you discover a new
Mm.
continent or a new land, you might want to draw a map to show you where the coast is and where the water is and where the mountains are. So your little map, you could call that a chart. A chart. So a map is another word for chart in this sense. Chart is another word for map in this sense here.
Mhm.
But here it's sort of allegorical. It's sort of it's not literal, is it? It's not a literal map. It's more of a map that's in the mind, I guess. So a rarely charted territory where the body remains fragile, treatment constant, and life does not so much move forward as stubbornly persist. So I think they're saying that this
Meaning.
rarely charted territory is this place where people trudge through their illness. They just exist in the state that they're ill. They're not enjoying it in the sense they just had a victory over it. They're just going through it. And at the beginning, remember we said at the beginning, so everyone's shouts a cheer for joy when people have a cure for cancer, and everyone
Mhm.
cries when they die, someone dies of cancer. But in that middle land between those two extremes, this is the rarely charted territory. Does that make sense? That is the rarely charted territory. No
Mm,
one
mm,
talks about this, well, not no one, but
mm,
very rare people rarely seem to talk about this business where they're just surviving. They have cancer and they might have a year or 2 years or 2 months. I don't know quite exactly how long this applies to, but and that's very
mm.
true,
Okay.
isn't it? They're the kind of stories we don't really want to hear about. We want to hear about people surviving cancer, and we want to hear too when our friends die of cancer too. We want to mourn them and go to their funerals. But the bit in the middle, that's the bit in the middle here.
Mm.
Okay. So the other word I noticed was so fragile. I would say that as fragile. I think when you read it out, I think I can't remember how you said it now, but it wasn't quite right. So fragile, we say that normally as that one.
Fragile.
Yeah, you got it.
Fragile.
Yeah, you got it. That's it. That's perfect, really.
Fragile. Sorry.
Yeah. So
We
is it
don't
okay?
pronounce yet the fragile.
So it's pronounced fragile. So I'm saying
Fragile.
fragile.
Fragile. Okay. Fragile. Okay.
Okay.
Fragile.
Okay. So do you want to carry on, Michael, from perhaps down here, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Liminal
Mm.
state. Liminal.
Yeah, when you read it out, I thought you must have known what it meant because you read it out so clearly and you were absolutely perfect. That's exactly how it was normally said. So
The
liminal.
liminal, this liminal, it's final, or what does it mean, liminal?
Um, My understanding of that meaning of that word is that it's an in-between state, in between two things. So it's not one thing and it's not the other. Does that make sense?
Mm.
And which sort of fits in where we're talking about this business. So this lady, she's not cured of cancer and she hasn't just about died of cancer. She's in this middle area where she's not dead and not alive. Well, not that, but she's in this sort of middle area. So liminal sort of means middle. Let's tap it in for the dictionary. It actually sort of gets a few more meanings out of it. Tap it into the dictionary, I should say. So liminal. It doesn't get a great deal of use. Oh, well, they've come out with a very specific meaning with psychology. But what does it mean in psychology anyway? So relating to the point or threshold beyond which a sensation becomes too faint to experience. How do they say it? I would say it's liminal.
Liminal.
Yeah, liminal. And that voice is wonderful. So there's a very specific meaning within psychology, and we're not really psychology students here. We're just sort of living our everyday lives. Oh, here we go. So, at a boundary or transition point between two conditions. So the two conditions I would say here is being fully alive, I'm cured of cancer, and the other condition would be dead. Yeah. Stages in a process, ways of life, etc. Okay, there we go. So hopefully that adds a bit to the meaning there. So this liminal state between between these different stages of life. Okay. Anything else? Magic revolution. Yeah.
Grim cliff edge. It's
Yeah.
the meaning of it's poetic meaning of
Yeah.
the final stage, death or before death.
Yeah. I don't know if it's exactly talking about death here, but it's there is a sort of a literary way in which there might be comparing the death, but
Dead.
also with something else. So let me just read that little bit there because the meaning is a little bit hidden in there. So because really she's talking about this NA, so the NHS is the hospital service in the UK. So it stands for the National Health Service. And so when you're ill, you visit the hospital and it's the people, and that is basically the NHS. The NHS is are the guys who run the hospital. So let me just read that sort of line there to about there. So this liminal state is a distinctly modern byproduct of a medical revolution. In the UK, barely a decade ago, so a decade is 10 years, so barely a decade ago, a stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis was a grim cliff edge. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yes, I was reading too much into it. Sorry, yes, you're absolutely right what you were saying, Michael. Yes. So the grim cliff edge is you falling over a cliff and dying. And if something's grim, it's bad, it's sad, it's a negative thing if something is grim. And obviously dying is grim, isn't it? One imagines. Um, and sometimes we talk about a cliff edge experience, slipping over a cliff edge. Sometimes with a graph, with a graph on a piece of paper that might list your income over a period of a year, and then maybe you were sacked or you lost your job in August, and then your money goes right down because you don't have an income. So on that graph, your money would be quite high, and then it would be a cliff edge in August. Your money would go down to zero, let's say. So that's a cliff edge. So there's lots of ways of using this little idea of cliff edge. But here it's someone dying and going over a cliff edge as in a sense dying. That's the meaning I take anyway. And we're just about to get this word here, and I think you said chemo, because as in, but in English we say chemo for this word,
Chem-
chemotherapy, chemo.
Chemotherapy.
Yeah,
Chemotherapy.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. So anything else?
Um, mm,
Hmm.
maturing precision, driven by the maturing precision.
So I would say that I'll pronounce that word as maturing, maturing.
Maturing.
Yeah. So getting older, getting older. Yeah. Driven by maturing. And I think
Recipe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, precipice, you got that. So precipice is the same idea of cliff edge, really. Cliff edge. It's playing with that same idea a little bit, in a sense. Okay. With this word here, when you read it out, I think you said something like, it sounded like emergency.
Emergent.
Yeah, so if there
Emergency.
was a Y on the end there, that would be emergency. But as it is written here, that's emergence. Emergence. So when,
Emergence.
yeah, that's right. That's what I'm reading anyway. So with something that's the emergence of something is when it's just coming out. It's just sticking. I've got some weeds in my garden, and they're just emerging from the soil now. So it's the same meaning as emerge. When something, if you if you're under the water in the swimming pool and you put your head up through the water, so you're in the air now, you're emerging into the air. So that's emergence. That's the same idea, emergence. Okay, carry on. So it's almost 7 o'clock. We've spent a long time reading this, haven't we? So anything else from anyone? Any questions from anybody? So let me just finish this off then with just rereading this last part here, and hopefully I won't make too many mistakes myself. So I'll read this to you. So, and one of the reasons is I think you with this word momentum, you didn't quite say it quite right, but you're very very close. You're good enough really, but you sort of like I'll give you a 90% score on that word, but it was good enough. But so I'll just say it again. So momentum. So today, the momentum of clinical progress, driven by the maturing precision of therapy, and the success of targeted therapies, has leveled that precipice to a vast uncharted plateau. Vast uncharted plateau. So the idea there, if something's a plateau, it's a flat area. Flat area. So remember I was talking about you've found a new piece of land and you want to make a map of it. So here it's an uncharted or unmapped. There's no map for this. And it's a big flat area. So a plateau is a big flat area on land normally. So it could actually have a plateau under the water too, under the sea, but we won't go into that. So when median survival, and median is a kind of average. There's several different ways of calculating an average, say in mathematics. And the median average is a particular way of calculating it. But it basically means somewhere in the middle is an idea here. Somewhere in the middle. The average is what median in essence means, or the middle somewhere. So while median survival, so in the middle somewhere, is now measured in years rather than months, we are seeing the emergence of super responders. I don't quite know what they mean by that, super responders, so maybe we'll see. So super means fantastic, really good, top quality. Responders, I don't know what they're referring to there. So when someone answers the phone, you could say that's a responder. I've responded to the phone, but I don't quite know what they mean. Okay, so navigating their second decade post-diagnosis. So from reading the rest of that sentence, the meaning there is, so the person who's a super responder is the person who is lasted 2 decades after being told they had cancer. That's what that sentence, that half a sentence means. So super responders in the sense that they were given medicine and their body um, took to it very well. They responded to the medicine very well, and they were cured of cancer. That's what it sounds like it's saying there to me. But I've not read this article before, so I don't really know. At least I don't remember reading it. And this last part says, as a psychologist, and those 3 words there basically seem to be saying that the writer of this article is a psychologist. So she must be a psychologist, I would guess. So I view this not just as a medical victory, but as a profound existential shift. So this word is pronounced existential. So it's got the word exist at the beginning, and it sort of is, that's really where the meaning sits or comes from. So if you exist, it means you're alive, basically, you could say. But if you say something is an existential crisis, it means that thing, whatever it is, it could be dying, or it could be about to die. So a football club might have an existential crisis. In other words, the football club might have to close down because it's not getting enough money, maybe. And sometimes psychologically people have an existential crisis. So perhaps they can't find a meaning in their life. Then perhaps their partner has died and they can't find a meaning in life. Their life is a bit meaningless, and that would be referred to as an existential crisis. Okay, we'll carry on then. So we have placed the suddenness of the cliff with the tenuous permanence of the high ridge. So she's being quite poetical here in the sense of playing with these ideas of land, high ridge, cliff. It's interesting how she's funny. It's an interesting way of talking about death and not dying and sort of being in that middle area. So, any questions about that? We spent quite a while there, which is okay because it's really what we're here to do. But if anyone has to go, please just shoot off. You don't have to stay to the end if you can't stay. Any questions from you guys? So, Ruslan,
Yes.
yes, or anyone else?
Yes, I didn't get the meaning of the
Hmm.
tenuous permanence of high ridge.
No, I didn't really say, did I? Really? The tenuous permanence. So if something's tenuous, it's not very certain. It's a bit sort
Mm-hmm.
of vague and not sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if something,
And the ridge?
well, again, high ridge. This is talking about. Remember, I mentioned about drawing a map when you discover a new piece
Mm-hmm.
of
Yes.
land. Well, you get high ridges next to a mountain on this new piece of land that you've discovered. You
Mm-hmm.
might draw on there. Oh, there's a high ridge here. So a high ridge is sort of like a long mountain where there's a peak,
Mm-hmm.
lots of series of different peaks, maybe.
Okay.
So it's a piece of land. And so she's talking about, in a sense, she's comparing, I guess, life, or the life that she's now leading, this sort of middle sort of life that she's experiencing of not dead, and not fully alive, I suppose. That's what she's talking about. Um, so she's somewhere between, I would say, this high ridge and the cliff. That's my feeling anyway. Somewhere between those two.
Yes, I get it. Thank you.
She's not quite saying that, but that's my
Mm-hmm.
feeling anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ruslan, anything from you?
No, I'm okay actually.
Great. Okay. Okay. So, um, does anyone have to go in the next sort of 10, 15 minutes? Or can you guys hold on? So Ruslan and
Yeah,
Fedua, can you hold on?
it's okay for me.
Okay, good. Okay, so Ruslan, do you fancy? I'm assuming, perhaps slightly unfairly, do you want to read the other article, which was this one here? So this is from the Mirror newspaper, and it's
Yeah, but how about the others? It's probably
hmm,
a bit confusing.
yeah, it can be, but life is confusing sometimes, isn't it? So you can
Okay, we
carry on
can
reading
switch
this if
on.
you want, but I'm seeing sort of some really long words, and I think it's a bit
Yeah,
unfair on you.
probably,
Like
yeah,
inadvertently, I'm not
inadvertently.
even sure how to pronounce that word. Interstitial. I can't pronounce it properly. Ins-
Okay.
chronically, chronically terminal. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so from for
Clinically
my
terminal.
benefit, to be honest, because I can't say interstitial. I can't say this word interstitial. So let's go over to here. So I don't want to have to say that word again. So I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean it's no point in reading something if it's not going to be helpful. But then again, maybe it is. I don't know. So do you fancy reading the title here, Ruslan, and
Okay.
then explaining it to us what you think it means, if you can.
Okay. UK households told don't throw coffee grounds in the bin by BBC experts.
Mm,
It's actually very simple. They tell us don't throw away coffee grounds in a bin.
mhm. Okay, that's not too hard, is it?
Yeah.
S- So, what are coffee grounds? What are?
Coffee ground. It is actually type of coffee which is not a extent. Yeah,
So, it's a
and
type of coffee which is not what? Sorry,
which is not which is not extent. Yeah,
extent.
of
Yeah, is there another word you can use? I'm not sure.
instant in
Oh,
instant
instant. Okay.
instant. Yeah,
All right.
instant.
So it's another type of coffee which isn't instant. Okay. That's
Mhm.
interesting. That's a good way of looking at it. Yes. But to be absolutely precise, can you be a bit more precise about what it really is or fully
Mm,
is? You're not wrong. You're spot on, really. But can you give a bit more detail?
yeah, it is
Mm.
actually looks like melted coffee in
Melted
a
coffee. Okay.
yeah melted coffee.
Mm. Hmm.
Yeah, grounds of coffee was melted. Yeah, and then it packed in a
Okay. Okay. So let me interrupt a second. Sorry about that.
okay.
So it says, do not throw coffee grounds in the bin. So why does it say in the bin? Let me just explain. So my understanding of those two words, coffee grounds, the coffee grounds is the waste that you have left over when you have a cup of coffee. Yeah, it's the waste, the stuff
Okay,
that you
yeah,
do
it's
not
right.
eat and you cannot eat it or drink it, I should say, really. So sometimes it might be those little dots or little black dots which are in the bottom of the coffee cup, but also but mainly the coffee grounds. Most people would think of the coffee grounds as being what's left in the machine that you've just used to make the coffee. So when you make instant coffee, there shouldn't really be any coffee grounds at all. There shouldn't be any coffee grounds. There's no waste with the instant coffee. So this is the coffee when you go to Costa Coffee or Starbucks and they have a special machine. So they have the coffee beans, they grind them up, the coffee beans are ground up, they pass hot water through it, and then you have a cup of coffee at the end. So all the ground up coffee beans, that still remains. You still have all this sort of dusty, pellety stuff. That's the coffee grounds. So it's the waste stuff when you have a proper coffee from Starbucks. But of course, Starbucks don't show you the coffee grounds. So if you have a if you have a coffee a coffee grinder, is that what they call it? I don't
Yeah,
have a coffee ground. When you make your own coffee from
mhm.
beans, you'll have coffee grounds. That's right, yeah, coffee grounds. So sorry to take 20 minutes to explain that, but there you go. So here's the photo of the lady having the coffee or making the coffee. Okay, so it's over to you now.
Households are being encouraged to hand on to any leftover coffee grounds rather than binning them, and instead put them to great use in the garden.
Hmm.
The appeal comes after an expert appeared on BBC Morning Live to reveal a clever way coffee lovers
Hmm.
can transform their used grounds into something genuinely worthwhile.
Yeah. So I interrupt you there. That's really good, I think. That's very good. I like that. Very good. So perhaps we'll do one paragraph at a time. So anything there you want to go back over again just to check the pronunciation or the meaning or anything? So it's still talking about the coffee grounds, which is the waste when you make coffee from coffee beans.
Yeah, and then they offered instead of throwing away
Mm,
coffee in a bean, put it on a
mm.
garden. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, in the garden, yes. So at the very beginning, before we started the class, we were talking about fertilizer. Fertilizer. And when you say fertilizer, that's normally stuff you put on soil to make it more, to grow better crops, bigger crops. Yeah, so they want to use it as that, something to improve the soil. That's what they're
Yeah,
suggesting.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it should help the plants to grow. Yeah, I
Mm.
guess so.
It is a natural product, isn't it? Coffee beans. So this is the waste from the coffee beans again, isn't it? Yeah. Anything else there?
Mhm.
Good, some good
How
pronunciation
about
there.
a worthwhile? Worthwhile. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
did I say it correct?
Yeah, that's no, that's not too bad. Yeah, we and maybe the word before it as well. So genuinely,
Uh,
genuinely. You're pretty good on genuinely as well, but we'll do perhaps do these three words together. So something genuinely worthwhile. So something, we know what that means, hopefully. So if something's genuinely, so you could say it's honestly or truly. Truly might be a better way to put it. You could put in there the word truly or
okay,
really, maybe even. If something's worthwhile, it means that it's something where your time isn't wasted on this thing. It's useful. It's a good thing.
okay.
Um,
Yeah, worthwhile.
worthwhile. So you could say worthwhile. You say it. You could say it is worth doing, or it is worth pursuing. There's lots of different meanings, sort of that you could sort of lots of different places you could use this word worthwhile. So it's worth your time to spend your time on it. That's what it's sort of saying in effect. So while effectively means time, and worth is value. So it is worth the time you spend on it. That's sort of what the meaning is in there.
Okay. For example, probably I heard or saw
Yeah.
in some text worthless. Is
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
is
That's
it
sort
exist?
of the opposite meaning, almost
Yeah,
pretty
the
much.
opposite. Yeah.
Pretty
Okay.
much the meaning, yeah, almost pretty much the opposite, yeah. Worthless. Very true. Very true. So do you want to just say those three
Okay.
words? So something genuinely, so
G-
there's sort of a W sound here in the middle.
um,
Genuinely worthwhile. So it's a bit tricky. I think the U sort of makes a W sound really. So genu. Do you want to just do genuinely for the moment? Genuinely.
genuinely
Yeah, I
uh,
give you sort of 60% on that. But you're getting there. And maybe just worthwhile. Worthwhile.
worthwhile.
Okay, your worthwhile is definitely better. Um, so I don't know why I booked this up for. So something. Oh, I know. So when you said the next word, genuine, it sounds like you're saying generally. It sounds a little bit like I
Um,
spell it. Oh, I've got too many L's there.
mm,
It sounds a little bit like you're saying generally. It sounds like you're saying this word, generally, generally.
okay.
That's what it sounds like you're saying, but that's not the
Yeah.
correct word, is it? So if something's genuine, it's sort of honest and true and worthwhile, and it really what it seems to be. That's what genuine really means. So
Gen-
let's miss out the ly because that makes it a bit tricky. If we just
okay.
say genuine, just say
Genuine.
genuine, yeah, genuine.
Genuine.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely better. That is, yes. So it's got
Gen-
this weird sort of W sound in the middle. You know, U's and V's and W's are a bit difficult. Well, sometimes the U makes this W sound as well. So genuinely, genuinely, genuinely.
okay. Genuinely. No, no, no.
Yeah,
Ge-
almost.
genuinely.
It still wants this sort of a
Yeah,
W sound. You're not the very first time you had it, about 20 seconds ago you had it, but you lose the more you do it, you're losing it a little bit. So maybe what we'll do is we'll skip over this word for the
yeah.
moment and come back to it
Okay.
at the
Yeah,
end.
I will
So
practice at home. Yeah, it's
yeah, there is that. Yeah, but we'll also but, but it's good to get it reasonably correct and then do some practice. If you're not getting it
mm,
reasonably correct and then just do more practice, you end up just staying at about that level. So it's best to get it reasonably accurate. So let's just do the worthwhile, because the W sound is what's in the middle of this word really. So your W is a little bit weak when you're doing this here. So it's the W is that letter where you put your lips together, like as if you were kissing a little child on the top of their head, like that. You're sort of kissing, pretend you're
okay.
kissing the air. Maybe it's worthwhile,
Worthwhile.
Yeah, your while sounds pretty good actually. Yeah, that's it. So, and at the beginning too. Try to get what the first one as well. So worth.
Worthwhile.
Okay, yeah, yeah. That sounds pretty good actually. Yeah, that's pretty good. Um,
Wow.
And maybe I could also mention some of your THs were a little bit sort of duh sound like. So
Mm, mm.
yeah, and there's a TH in the middle here, so and I think maybe that's making it tricky as well. So there's lots of tricky sounds in this word, isn't there? So yeah. So do you want to carry on? Let me just read the whole of this little paragraph
Okay.
to you, and then maybe you can carry on with the next one. So maybe if I read this next, it might bring out a few interesting things. I don't know. So, households are being encouraged to hang on to any leftover coffee grounds rather than binning them. Instead, put them to great use in the garden. The appeal comes after an expert appeared on BBC's Morning Live to reveal a clever way coffee lovers can transform their used grounds into something genuinely worthwhile. Okay, okay, there we go.
Okay.
Anything there? Or you can just carry on if it's okay.
Yeah, just let me
Hmm.
read the next paragraph and
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Joining today's April 15 episode of the daytime program, retired clinical psychologist Royce Orty explained how people can collect their spent coffee grounds on grounds and craft them into
Hmm.
wildflower seeds balls. Mrs. Rosie Oti previously worked for the NHS in Wales and was a member of APOSM and an advisory board uh, brought to the Wales government.
Hmm. Yeah, that was good. I like that. Very good. Some really good words there. I loved how you said NHS. So British people tend to rush that. We rush it really quickly. We say NHS, NHS, and
NHS.
you pretty much did that. So you sounded like an English natural, I would say. Me said that was very good. Anything you want to ask about here?
Yeah, here just a couple words. How about uh, wildflower? Yeah,
Yeah,
wildflower.
yeah.
Wild. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. So yeah, you read it. You read it quite well. So yeah, so but what does it mean? So wild flowers. So when you go to the shops, you might buy some seeds, and you might buy tomatoes, or you might buy, I don't know, chrysanthemums or something. But you don't normally get seeds for you can go to the shops and buy seeds for flowers. So, and then nice flowers, beautiful flowers, and they grow how you want them to, and they look beautiful. But with wild flowers, these tend to be not exactly weeds, but these are the natural flowers that happen to grow up wherever the seeds from last year landed. Does that make sense? So wildflower.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
sort of
okay.
a naturally planted seeds, and it's now grown up. If it's a flower, I should say. But then it says seed balls. So I guess they're using the coffee grounds to make into a little ball. They're
Um,
squashing it up into a little ball, perhaps slightly damp as well. Perhaps putting seeds into it. I guess I don't really. I'm guessing now. And then it's a seed ball. If the I guess they then throw them into the garden and it grows plants. I really don't know. It's a bit odd. So a seed ball. So yeah, does that make sense? I don't know really.
yeah, yeah.
I
It
think
can
I
be, it
liked your
can be.
name. Yeah, yeah. So with the name there, so so MS, and then to pronounce this, I would say Ms for this here. So in English, or in sort of English, we tend to have three different types of titles for ladies. So there's Miss, and you probably know some of this, I'm sure. So Miss is when a lady isn't married, and normally it's a younger woman, normally, but isn't always, of course. And Mrs. is when it's a married lady. So this is then her name would be followed after that, of course. So the top one is Miss,
Okay.
and this is Mrs.
Yes.
And the next one is the one that we've got on our story here, and it's just MS. So we don't
Mm,
know. We sort of don't know which one it is. And so this has come about in the last 30 years or something, I would say. It wasn't used 100 years ago, but it's in the last generation or so. We've started using these two letters, or some ladies started using it, and we pronounce it as ms.
mm.
So it sounds a little bit like miss, but it isn't quite. So that's miss, but this one is ms. Tricky to pronounce. Yeah, so Ms. Rosie, perhaps Oretti. I'm making it slightly Italian, but I don't know if it's an Italian name. Oretti. Okay, so.
Yeah. And how about an advisory?
Mm. So if something's advisory, so it's sort of advice. It's something is being advised. So I advise you to get a bigger car because your family's just had a baby and you won't be able to get all the family into the car now. I advise you to do something. I advise you to go to the doctors because you're ill, that sort of a thing. So an aboard, if it's a board, it means it's probably more than one person. And it sort of says quite strongly that it's something official. Something official. So perhaps the government has set up something like a committee to advise something or other. So a
Right.
board is something like a committee. Sometimes we talk about a board of directors. So the directors of a company that might be referred to as the board of directors, I should say. So it's a group of people. A board in this sense is a group of people. Have you ever
Uh,
heard of the idea of a boardroom? A boardroom? That's
a
the spelling.
boardroom. It's
So,
probably
mhm.
where people have a meeting, I
Yes,
guess.
that's
So
exactly it. That's exactly it. So the advisory board probably has a boardroom where they meet to discuss what they're going to advise, presumably the Welsh government. So it's not the English government, this is the Welsh government, and that's pronounced Welsh. Welsh.
before your explanation, I thought it is about the world board, where we can
Ah.
find some recommendation, some advice.
Mhm. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I don't know what this stands for. APOSM. It stands for something, but I don't know. So, it's getting quite late now. It's getting on for 7:30. Is it okay if if I move over to Fedua? Fadu, I should say.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
here.
But just before we do move over, any more questions on this little bit here, Ruslan?
No, then
Anything you want to?
actually, everything is pretty clear.
Okay. So we're sort of running out of time a little bit here, aren't we? So so it's over to you, over to you, Fedor. I'm saying I've forgotten how to say your name actually. Fa
Fadwa, Fadwa.
Fadwa. Ah, Fadwa. Okay.
You can call me Fa.
Okay. So over to you. This is your little article here then to read.
Okay. Um, I can read the text. That's
Yeah,
it.
from anywhere you want, really, but from here down might be great, and read
Okay.
as much or as little as you want. Okay, over to you then.
So okay, let's go. Such a progression has inadvertently birthed a new demographic. Oh my God, the chronicle terminal. We occupy
Okay,
an
let me stop you there. So
yes.
to me to be really useful, let me read that back to you.
Okay.
So, and then you just listen, and then you can read it a second time. So here we go. So,
Okay. Thank you.
such a progression, and of course, this is from the story we were reading before. So, you hope you haven't forgotten where we've got up to,
No,
but
no.
that's okay.
I mean,
So, such a progression. So, if something's a progression, it's moving along. So, it's gone from one step to another and further along something or other. So, such a progression has inadvertently so if something's inadvertent, it's unintentionally. We didn't quite realize that was going to happen. It wasn't meant to happen, but it did. Oh dear, never mind, sort of thing. Hopefully, inadvertently, birthed, birthed. So it's something. So something is accidentally made something. So if you birth something and not a child, you've made something by accident, it's saying here, I think. And what's been made is a new demographic. Demographic. So demography or demographics is to do with population growth. Population growth. So the numbers of people living in a country, that sort of a thing. But they're saying demographic. So but normally when that word is used, it's sort of saying a particular segment of the population. So here, because we're talking about cancer, it must be, so it's not the people who die of cancer, and it's not the people who are cured of cancer. It must be the new demographic must be those people who are in the middle. They're not dying of cancer. They're sort of dying of cancer, but not quickly enough almost. And they're not being cured. They're in the middle. Does that make sense? That must be the new demographic. So if a demographic, it normally is used when it's saying to describe a particular group of people in a population. So young people, middle-aged people, old people, retired people, that sort of thing. But here it's cancer, isn't it? Then it says the chronically the chronically terminal. Oh, that's the demographic. The chronically terminal. Okay. So do you want to try reading that back? Maybe let me read it through again, then it's your go. So
yes.
such a progression has inadvertently birthed a new demographic, the chronically terminal. Your go.
Such a progression has inadvertently birthed a new demographic, the chronically terminal.
Well done. That was good. That was definitely better. Your progression was better,
Such a
inadvertently.
progression has inadvertently birthed a new demographic, the chronically terminal.
That's it. That's it. One word here in the middle. So that's whoops. That's birthed.
Birthed.
It's,
Birth.
yeah,
Birth.
you're saying birthed.
Yeah.
It's never birthed. I'm sorry, but it's birthed.
Birthed. Birth.
So it's
Okay.
ed, but we actually pronounce that as something like a t. I would say It's a T sound on the end. It's tricky, I know. So birthed.
Birth.
I think
Birth.
that's correct. Yeah, birthed. Yeah, birthed. Yeah, tricky, I know. And so what does chronically mean? Any idea? Chronically?
It's like chronicle diseases.
Yeah. Do you mean as in listed? What do you mean by chronicle? I don't know.
Oh,
It's the same
um,
word. You essentially give me the same word back, but without the ly on the end, really, haven't you? So, but what does chronically mean in this sense, or anything about it, really? If you don't know, that's okay. I mean,
yeah, I know, but I can't explain it chronically. It's
okay.
chronicle. It's like
So,
so
how else can you
uh,
use the word or similar words? How can you use that word or similar words? So, how would you use
um
chronicle? How can you use the word
for
chronicle?
example, some chronicle disease are covered by insurance health, like cancer, like diabetes. It's
Okay,
chronicle. It's phase of the it's grade of some disease that it's
okay.
it's dangerous. So it's not really normal a simple disease.
Hmm.
It's chronicle. And when you are chronically, it's like someone is dying. It's chronicle. We need to find
Yeah.
solution or give him a blood, for example.
Blood. Okay, let me
Yeah.
interrupt you. So, the word. Do you know that another name for a watch, when you look at your watch for the time,
Mm-hmm.
it's a chronograph. A chronograph, and it's got the same start. So it's something to do with time, believe it or not. This word relates to time. Yeah? Time,
Mm-hmm.
believe it. So not really, it is in a sense illness because we're talking about cancer. So if something's chronically terminal, it's to do with time. So let's stick it into the dictionary to
Mm-hmm.
get the proper meaning. So
Yeah, I get it. I get
a
it.
lot of
Yes.
what you said was right
Yes.
in a
Yes. But I
sense.
get the meaning. Yes.
Okay. So let's see how it gets used. So this one gets a bit tricky. So let's listen to their word. How they pronounce it. Chronically. Here we go. That's our word there. Chronically. Let's listen to how they say it.
chronically,
Chronically. Okay. So a chronic illness or disability lasts for a very long time. It's to do with time again. That's a key thing. Doesn't matter really. So sometimes illnesses are chronic, and sometimes they're acute. Sometimes we talk about illness as being it's an acute illness, and the opposite, I guess, would really be a chronic illness. I think so. They're two sort of opposites. And by the way, Michael, interrupt me if I'm wrong. Do interrupt me if I'm wrong. So I'm not a doctor. So that's one way of using it. Um, but also you can describe someone's bad habits or behavior as chronic when they have for behaved like that for a long time and do not seem to be able to stop themselves. Oh, I'm a chronic warrior. I think it says here somewhere. I'm a chronic worrier, so I just can't stop worrying about things. I do it all the time. Okay. And a chronic illness means it's lasted for a long time, so I would say. It's not going away and not going away, sort of thing. A chronic situation or problem is very severe and unpleasant. And then it says, as an example sentence, one cause of the artist's suicide, so they killed themselves, seems to have been chronic poverty. So over a long period of time, they didn't have much money. Okay. So other words which are similar in this sense are serious, dangerous, acute, alarming. I didn't think I would expect that. Okay, we'll leave that at that point. Okay. Hopefully that's a bit clearer, or even too clear now, maybe.
Yes.
So we've done chronically, but what's terminal
Chronicle.
mean? Terminal.
It's the end.
Yeah,
The
that's it. Yeah,
terminal.
yeah. So if you say it's the end for a cancer sufferer, they're going to die. That's what we're talking about. But here, it's sort of the end. They're going to die, over a very long time. So this little phrase here, again, it sums up this article, the whole article pretty much. So they haven't died right now, and they haven't been cured of cancer. They're still in the middle. That's what this phrase really, I would say, that's what that phrase means, stuck in the middle. And that's really what this word here means as well, I guess. So do you want to, you can read that sentence again if you want. So let me read it back to you again. Hopefully it
Yes.
makes a bit more sense. Then you can read it again. So such a progression has inadvertently, birthed a new demographic, the chronically terminal. So once again, over to you.
Such a progression has inadvertently birthed a new demographic, the chronically the oh the cro- the chronically terminal.
Yeah, the crocodile terminal. Yeah.
The-
Yeah, that's it. We'll move on. That's it. That's good. Do you want to do that sentence there? That's it. That
okay.
was good. That was good. Well
We
done.
we occupy
Mm.
interstitial
Mm.
space, standing in the spectre of what is destined destined to take us, yet still burned with the responsibility of being within the world.
Mm.
We
Yeah,
occupy interstitial. Oh my god! So
yeah, that was
it's
pretty
so
good actually.
rude. Yeah, oh my god.
Yeah. So let me read it back to you. Well, so the
Okay.
tricky words are
And
interstitial.
interstitial.
So let me just copy that word into the dictionary to make sure I've got it spot on. And also it will tell me the meaning. So I'm cheating all the time here. So interstitial. So here we go. So so it's so of or relating to interstice. I don't know how to pronounce these words. I've not seen them before. Or interstices. Now, I think Michael might know this, I
You
guess.
get it.
So let's listen to how you say interstitial.
interstitial,
Oh, that's a terrible voice. So you pretty much had it really. So, and I've got it too, I think. So it's quite a technical word. It has means something in physics, in chemistry, and zoology and anatomy. So it's quite a technical word. So, but what's the overall meaning? I think she probably means the. I don't know which one she means. I think it's more the chemistry one. I think she means the chemistry one, really. Or I'm probably wrong here. So, to do with chemistry, it would be an atom or ion situated in the interstitial of a crystal lattice. Oh, genius. Maybe we'll just leave this word. I thought they're going to be helpful here, but they're not. Anatomy. So if anyone knows the meaning of this word, do tell us, won't you? So to my mind, it sort of means in the middle. I would say it means in the middle.
In the middle, but between
Yeah, between other things.
something. Yes, it's
Yeah, it's not floating in nowhere. Yeah.
interstitial tissue. Or
Your pronunciation sounds really good. So well done, Michael. How do I say it again, Michael? Just help me. Interstitial.
Interstitial.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll give you a 90% on that. That's very good. Well done. Let's hear them say it again, just for. Oh, but the voice on here is terrible.
interstitial,
It's obviously an AI voice, isn't it? So interstitial. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Interstitial.
So thank you, Michael. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, so we occupy. I think she's sort of using the word. I'm not quite sure herself of the meaning, but yeah, that sort of space in the middle between
In the
things.
middle, yes.
We occupy a space in the middle between things. Is what she's saying. Okay, so
Standing in the
standing. Oh, let me carry on. I got up to there, never read anything. So standing in the spectre. So that's spectre. So a spectre is basically a ghost. You could say it's a ghost. That's a simple meaning, ghost. When I say ghost, like a spirit who sort of visits you in the middle of the night and says, "Whoa," like that, something like that. Of what it is destined. So destined. I think you said you sort of pronounced the ed. You weren't quite right on the ed there. So to take us, yet still burdened. So we're carrying a heavy weight. If you're burdened with something, it might be a problem you're burdened with, or a disease. You could have a burden of a disease as well. Cancer in this case, I guess. With the responsibility of being within the world. So let me read that again, and then it's your go. So we occupy an interstitial, not very good, but I won't say it again, space standing in the spectre of what is destined to take us, yet still burdened with the responsibility of being within the world. So do you want to give it one more go, Fedua?
Okay, yes. We occupy an interstitial space standing in the spectre of what is destined to take us, yet still burdened burdened with the responsibility of being within the world.
World.
Burdened.
Yeah, so you're tricky. You're better at saying this word than I am, so won't do that one anymore. So, and I think you're trying to say this word the French way.
Yes.
So although it's written R-E, we pronounce it as if it was written E-R, really. So, or really, that would be the American way of pronouncing it, to be honest. So we don't really.
Spectre.
So if I just say the word for you, so it's spectre, spectre.
Spectre.
Yeah.
Spectre. Okay.
So on the end, it's sort of an
Yeah.
sound, really. So spectre,
Sure.
and this is destined,
This.
destined. So it's although it looks like destined, it isn't. It's destined,
Yes.
destined. Yeah, destined. And if you carry a burden is the heavy weight. If I've got a burden, it's a heavy weight normally. And if you're burdened, it means you're carrying a heavy weight, in a sense. I'm burdened with something. So although it's ED, the sound I'm making at the end is just a D sound. Although it's ED, I'm just making it a D, I would say. Yeah, is that right? Burdened. Yeah. So with that, it's just that although it's ED, I'm just saying D.
Yeah.
So with EDs, either you say just a D sound, or you just say a T sound, and I forget what the other one is. But occasionally you do say Ted. Oh, Ted is the last one, I think. You say ed, Ted. So it's T-E-D. Ted is the sound. So there's three types of ending. I think Ted is the fourth one, but I won't go into that.
Okay.
With the
Can
yeah, do you want to just those
yeah?
tricky words? So
Can
spectre.
I just yes? So enters sorry
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
interstitial spectre.
Yeah.
What's the other? Is distant
Yes, that's it.
distant
Destined.
burdened.
Yes,
Burdened.
burdened.
Okay.
Burdened. Is it
Burdened.
burdened?
Burdened. Thank you so much.
Okay. So
Burdened.
okay. So we'll read to the end of this paragraph if you've got the time, and then we'll have to leave it, I think, because it's quarter
Yes, I
to.
have all time, you know. So I'm so happy to to assist to this course. So
Okay. Okay.
this exchange. So this surreal duality compels us to face our finitude while tending to the sentimental task of deciding which relationships are still worth the oxygen they require. The
Yeah.
oxygen they require.
Yeah. That's pretty good at reading, I think. They're very good. So, any words there that you think are a bit tricky? You want to double check the meaning or the pronunciation?
Finitude, finitude. Do yes, as
Uh,
to our finitude.
Oh, it's saying here my connection's a bit iffy at the moment, so I might be disappearing my voice or something. So let me close some of these
Mm.
windows, as that might be using up my brain power of my computer. I'll just close some of these windows.
Mm.
Just close. Oh, while I'm here on this page here, so we're doing a walk at the weekend, if anyone is with us. So it's on April the 19th. This is 2026, and it's Hampton Court to Hampton Wick, 3 miles. So it's a sort of conversational walk. So there's about 12 people going so far, and it's basically a lot of English speakers, and I'm inviting people who want to learn practice their English. So if I close some of these other windows. Okay, so yeah, I've done that now. Yeah, I hope that's better. Okay, so finite. You know, we had a little while ago the word finite. Finite. I mentioned infinite as well. Do you remember that, Fedwa?
Infinite? Yes.
So what does infinite? What does infinite mean? Or what does finite mean? Infinite? Are you chapping into a bot, are you? Infinite? I'm not
Oh,
silly,
that's
you
my
know.
papers, yes. So
So if something is infinite, it
it's
means
never
what?
limited. It's
Yeah. So if
unlimited. Unlimited.
Yeah, so infinite means it's unlimited. So, but when you take
Oh,
away the
okay.
in, if I delete the
Yes.
in, if it's
Yes.
finite,
Okay.
it means there's only a small, a less. We know
Okay.
exactly how much there is, a certain amount of it.
Finite. Okay.
So this word here comes from that idea. So you're saying our finitude. So we're not infinite. Our life isn't infinite. It's of a certain length, a certain size. But in truth, we don't know how big it is or how short it is. So she's being a little bit poetic or clever with the
Mm.
words finitude. I can't remember the last time I ever saw this word. I probably have seen it before, but not very often. Um, so let me read the whole thing back to you. I think
Okay.
you're
Thank
pretty
you.
good on that. So this surreal duality compels us to face our finitude, so not infiniteness or infinity, but our finitude, while tending to the unsentimental task of deciding which relationships are still worth the oxygen they require. Okay. So, do you want to read it again? You were pretty good on this one, I would say. Just read it once then.
This this surreal duality compels us to face fin, finitude while tending to the insentimental task of deciding which relationships are still worth the oxygen they require.
Yeah, that's good. Good.
Worth the oxygen they require.
Yeah, that's good. I can't really see any problems there at all, really. Um, yeah, so I wouldn't know exactly how to pronounce that word. I'm sort of guessing finitude, should I say. Okay, we'll end on this one then. Uh,
There is dark
mhm.
incongruity to this way of living. We know our horizon. We know our horizon with terrifying clarity,
Okay, that's good.
but
Hold on,
but
hold on.
we are okay.
Hold on. Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. It's pretty good. I mean, there's very little I can sort of correct there in a sense. Definitely, almost as the class is going on, you're getting better and better. I don't know why, but you are. Well done.
Thank
So,
you.
so any
Incongruity.
idea what that word might mean? You're pretty good on the pronunciation of it, I would say. Any idea what it means?
It's the opposite of congruity.
That's spot on. Yeah. So the in makes it the opposite of something. Yeah,
Of
that's it.
congruity.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does congruity mean then? Tell me that one then. So there's two words. Both of them do get some use. It's not very common. It's not very common. Mathematicians use this quite a bit. So what do you think it means? If you don't know, just say. I mean, you can guess it if you want, but I
Mm-mm.
mean, there was a dark incongruity to this way of living. You couldn't really guess it from the sentence, I don't think. So have you tapped it into an AI bot yet or no? Have you fallen asleep? What's happening?
Mm, so, is it there?
Let me help you.
Yeah. Ruslan.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It is like it looks for me like appropriate. Yeah, appropriate.
Yeah, that's
Right
pretty
way.
good.
Yeah,
That's
right
that's
way.
that's that's pretty good, and I would say yes. That's not too bad. That's pretty good. So when mathematicians you talk about this word, or even physicists or whatever, they sort of sometimes mean it to use. What do they mean? I don't know. You could talk about things being equal. They're congruous. Things are congruous when they're equal, you could say. And if things are incongruous, if there's incongruity, it means there's it says dark, doesn't it? So really that sort of adds to it. It's sort of things aren't quite right. Things aren't quite marrying up correctly. Um, yeah, so how are they? Yeah, so I've tapped in congruity. With congruity, because could they say things are the same, they're equal, is something complete, is about things are complete about it, it's harmony, I would say, probably. So if things are incongruity, it's not really harmonious. And it says harmony right there. So the fact, the condition or fact of being congruous or congruent, specific. So an agreement, yeah. So if things are equal, you could say they're in agreement, you could say, or or harmonious or harmony. Fit or fitness, appropriate. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, things are appropriate. They're correct. It's right. The way things should be. Exact coincidence. So two things are on top of each other. They're exactly equal, you might say. An instant agreement. That's interesting. Yeah. So if things are in agreement, they're equal. That's another way of saying it, really. Where are we? That's that lady who's in the situation. So this is the exact opposite of that meaning. There is a dark incongruity to this way of living. So it's a bad way of living. And the bad way of living is this chronically, terminally facing death. That's the dark incongruity. Um, and I think when you said this word here, you're on purpose missing out the H. In English, we don't always pronounce the H, but the majority of the time we do pronounce the H. So this word here is horizon. Horizon. Do you want to say that word? Horizon.
Horizon.
Yeah, horizon. That's it. We,
Horizon.
I would guess it's 80% of the time we pronounce. It might even be 90% of the time we pronounce the H. I
Mm.
guess I'm particularly saying at the beginning of the word. When there's a W and then an H, you could say the H is silent, I think, most of the time, if not all the time, I think. There's a W in front of the H most of the time, perhaps even all of the time, it's silent. So there's the word when just here. This is a classic case when the H is silent. Okay. But it's in the middle of the word. But when it's at the beginning, we pretty much, most of the time we pronounce it. Most of the
Horizon.
time we pronounce it at the beginning. So terrifying clarity. Yeah, okay. So let's go down to there maybe. Do you want that bit there?
But we are still subject to the same randomness as the healthy.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yes.
Random.
So randomness,
Random.
randomness. Yeah, you pretty much said that really. It's minor detail I think here, and healthy.
Healthy.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Good. Okay, and maybe the last bit there then is. Do you want to read this one too?
Yes. The the theoretical bus that might strike tomorrow, but for those of us is the long middle. That bus is already idling in the driveway.
Okay. So that was pretty good. Just that one word there.
Idling.
So
Idling. What is
idling, idling.
idling?
Yeah, idling. So what does it mean, idling? So we're talking about a bus and idling. What does it mean in that sense or context? Idling.
Sitting.
Yeah, that's basically what it means. Yes, sitting. Yeah, sitting, basically doing nothing. Sitting
Yeah,
doing
but
nothing.
sitting, moving in the riding in the driveway is already on it.
You've lost me there. Can you say that again,
Okay.
or just you or use other words to say the same thing?
Okay. Um, that is so long.
Yeah.
That bus is already idling in the driveway. Idling, it means settling. No,
Oh, that's what. Yeah, that's basically means.
settling,
Yes, yeah.
settling.
But
Yes.
but well maybe no. Let me go over it again then. So I think maybe I misunderstood. I didn't. Let's just start again. So that bus is already idling in the driveway. So when something's idling, it's sitting there doing nothing. And in the driveway, the idea here is this is that short bit of tarmac by the side of your house where your car sits, or in this case, it's a bus, I suppose you could say. So it's sitting on the road doing nothing.
Hmm.
Sitting on the bus doing nothing. Sitting on the road, the bus or the car, sitting on the road doing nothing. That's what maybe I've misunderstood it, but that's what I take it to mean.
So this dark.
And if you're idling, the engine is still running, so it's still chugging over, but you're not driving it. It's just sitting there. It's in neutral. The car is in neutral, or the bus is in neutral, I should say. Maybe the other word is worth doing. Might be. So what does this word
So,
mean? You're pretty good in the pronunciation. I'll give you sort of
uh,
75% on that one.
you have theory,
Yeah,
theory,
yeah.
and
It comes from
theoretical.
theory. That's right. Yeah,
Theory.
that's it. Yeah. So if I use those three words there, or four words maybe, that might strike tomorrow. That very short sentence, though, the theoretical, the theoretical bus that might strike tomorrow. The theoretical. Do you want to give that a go? The
Theoret-
theoretical bus that might strike tomorrow.
the theoretical, the theoretical, the theoretical bus that might strike tomorrow. The theoretical,
Yeah, theoretical. Yeah, you're getting there.
theoretical.
So it's
But
the
I need to
ending that makes
train.
it
I need to
tricky.
train for some words because some words. This is the first time that I read them.
Yeah, of course.
But
Yeah, and
yeah.
yeah, I don't think I've read this word in 30 years, to be honest. But yeah, okay. So what I've noticed is that occasionally your NGs, you're
Mhm,
missing the sound of the NG sound,
mhm.
and I don't think that. I think that's in French. Do you speak French? I'm assuming by your accent you
Yes,
speak
I
French.
grew up in Morocco.
Okay.
Then it has been
Yeah.
24 years that I'm living in France. So
Okay. Yeah.
I'm losing my English and I don't practice except when I travel. So
Oh,
that's it. But I'm working on it. That's my goal today.
oh, just for today. Tomorrow, no, you do something else
No,
tomorrow.
no, that's
Okay, so we.
that's my goal. Yes, that's my first goal. That's to
Okay, that's
correct
good.
the fundamental. Yes.
Well, you're pretty good, I would say. I mean,
Well,
I'd say
thank you.
you're
You're
really
you're
good.
so
So well
nice.
done. Um, okay, so I tend to think the French are normally very, very good on this NG sound, but I know once or twice you seem to say something. Not, perhaps I misheard you, of course, but it didn't seem quite right. So the NG sound is that sort of nasal. I'm not quite sure what the French phrase is now. So there's lots of nasal vowels, and you're making the sound through your nose. That's really where the NG comes from. It's coming out of your nose. So there's some NG words here, or ending in NG. And as I always say, it's not an N sound and it's not a G sound. You're not meant to be saying N and G. When you see these two letters together, pretty much anywhere in a word, you're making a one sound, not two sounds, but one sound. It's this nasal sound. If I try and say it now, so tending, ing, 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 ing,
Tending,
ing.
deciding,
Yeah, I think you've got it. So, and you probably
eating,
already, yeah,
in,
ing.
moving,
Yeah, you've got it.
in.
You've got it. But there were a couple of places where it didn't sound quite right. But it's probably my hearing.
Mm.
Probably my hearing. Although having said that, a fair number of Brits will just tend to say the bit I've highlighted in yellow. yellow. They will say it as if there is no G there, but that's not everyone, but that's a fair number. So people from sort of Birmingham to Liverpool in that area of the country sort of tend to say it this way, tending. But no, they will overdo it. We're talking about they would tend to. Oh, I don't know what I keep saying that for. So well, let's concentrate on what we're doing here. So any questions about this, Ruslan or Fedua? We just read this
No,
little bit here.
it's good.
That's good. Okay. Um, and I was
Yes,
unfair to the people from the Birmingham just then. So if anyone from
Tony,
Birmingham is listening, yeah,
I
carry on.
just would like to uh,
Mm,
clarify it
yeah.
about the last sentences of the last paragraph. It
Mm,
is looks like a comparing, yeah, and what actually she wants to tell us of it, yeah,
mm,
about this is example of the buses,
yeah.
yeah, because I can't
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
get the meaning of
Mm.
it. It's
It is a little bit hidden because I would say maybe in Britain we have this little sort of metaphor where we talk about the bus with my number on it or the bus with your number on it. When someone says that in that particular sort of phrase, what they mean is the bus that hits you going at full speed and kills you. So you're crossing the road, you don't see this bus that's heading towards you, and it has your number on it. That's what we say. It hits you and kills you. And that's the sort of idea she's referring to when she says bus. So it's sort of hidden in sort of British culture, I would say. And maybe other cultures have this too. But so when she says the theoretical bus, that's really what she's referring to. That's what I take this to mean anyway. And I'm sure that's what it means. So she's talking about death, isn't she? She has cancer. She knows she's going to die. Let me just read this bit to you. Maybe with that idea in mind, this little idea of the bus that kills you. That's maybe this maybe it'll make a bit more sense then. So, and that's why it's theoretical. So it's sort of metaphorical
yeah,
bus.
okay.
Maybe that's another way of putting it. So it's kind of a bus doesn't really exist, but it's kind of like a metaphor or an idea or a saying maybe. So the theoretical bus that might strike tomorrow. So if it strikes you, it's going to kill you. No, not go on strike. So if it hits your body, basically, what it's saying.
Okay.
But for those of us in the long middle, that bus is already idling in the driveway.
It is she wants to tell us that for her
Yeah.
exactly no matter what can happen tomorrow. Yeah, we can say like this.
Um, well, you're in the right area, I would say, but not quite that. Or maybe I misunderstand, I guess. But it's I think she's talking the whole of this article seems to be about this idea of being in the middle with cancer. So she's not cured of it, and she's not going to die of it tomorrow or next week. But
Yeah,
she's kind of living with cancer. She's living with it. So she hasn't been struck by the bus. The bus
okay,
hasn't struck her, and it isn't going to do it tomorrow.
okay.
It's kind of waiting for her, and she's constantly aware there's a bus around the corner almost with the engine running, and it's waiting to see her to strike her and kill her. That's kind of the idea. It's kind of a weird idea.
Uh,
But we don't really think about that, do we? In a sense, we you think, oh, well, I'm dead. When I die, I die. But I'm alive now. Let's get on and enjoy myself. But she's in this weird situation. She knows she's going to die, and I guess
So,
she can't pin a date on it. I don't really know. But we've only
so
done the
I
first
think,
few paragraphs. Yeah, you're going to say something, yeah?
yeah, I think Ilan, it means in this way, it means that he's floating, he's not doing anything, but he will strike you one day.
Yeah, that's pretty much the idea. Yeah,
Mm.
but more
He's in the
specifically,
driveway. He's on the driveway. He's in the driveway. But
yeah,
he's idling. He's doing nothing. But he's here, and he
yeah,
might strike you
yeah,
tomorrow.
yes, yeah.
Mm.
Well, I guess she knows she's not going to. die tomorrow. Otherwise, she'd be in a lot more pain. I don't really
Right,
know exactly her situation. I
right,
assumed
yeah.
it was breast cancer for some reason, but maybe she hasn't mentioned breast cancer. But
Yes, she was really.
oh, it is breast, is it? Okay,
Yes.
um, but when as I did actually say, if I mentioned about a car idling or a bus idling, it means the engine is running and it's just sitting there doing nothing. So as soon as they put the car into gear, it would drive off.
Mm,
So if it's just parked, that means there's no one sitting there. The key isn't in the engine turning it over. It's just sitting. If it's parked, that's complete. That's the opposite, or an opposite, I would say, of if a car is parked, it's not idling. Idling means it's ready to go, but it isn't doing anything at the moment. It can happen at any
mm,
minute. That's really what I would say. Um, I live. There's lots of schools in London. I don't live too far from one, and there's a big sign outside of my local school. It says "No idling." So
mm.
that means no one's allowed to park in that area and just have their engine running. You can't do that. It's illegal in that area. And
You know what, Tony? In our company, actually, we
mm,
have a rule
oh yeah,
before drive from the yard, we need keep idling our lorry at
yeah.
least for 10 minutes to make air pressure in a good
Oh yeah,
level.
in the brakes. Yeah,
Yeah, in a
yeah,
brakes, yeah, and yeah, so on like
yeah,
this.
yeah. And you've got lots of hydraulic equipment, haven't you? And so it's very important, isn't it? So everything. Presumably, it also tests the hydraulic cables, does it, or no?
Yes,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course,
There's a
yeah.
lot of work. Yeah, yeah. There's a good reason for that, isn't it? Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it, really. So it's running a car engine or a van engine or a bus engine. Maybe you're warming it up. Maybe you're about to go on a long drive, and there's lots of ice on the car, and you just want to warm the car up. They say you're not meant to do that. Not meant to do that because it sort of wastes fuel, and also when you're idling, when you first switch a car on, those fumes that come out the back of a petrol car, they're particularly sort of noxious. And noxious means poisonous, really, and bad for the nature. So noxious. That's a new word, is it for you? Noxious. Okay, so I think we've done this passage to death, and I'm being funny there because it's talking about death. Um, so is it naughty to make fun of this article because she's dying of cancer? Is that naughty to do that? Am I being unthought, uncaring for her? Do you think, or no?
Mhm.
So
Yes,
it
it's
is for the public, and I don't see in our job that it looks some like a naughty.
Hmm. So to make fun of someone who's dying, I wasn't really doing that, but yeah, okay, it's
But it
interesting.
is
Yeah,
not
I
fun actually. Yeah.
yeah.
for me, in my opinion, the only comedian can sometimes laugh about hard things in life,
Hmm.
but with but with due respect to those people.
Hmm. Yeah, respect to the person. Yeah, show them due respect, but it's okay to laugh about things. Yeah, I think that's true, isn't it? I think that was an incredibly well written piece. The language was very interesting. It wasn't in any way boring.
Oh, too much vocabulary.
Too much vocabulary.
Vocabulary.
But often what I do is I pick out articles where there is lots of words like that, and I think Michael, the guy, I think Michael's gone. I think he's really looking for new words, and he's interested in medical things and doctors and whatever. So I thought whenever I picked this out, presumably back in March, I thought this would be useful for him. I think. Yeah. So I closed some of the windows already, so I can't go back to sort of remind you guys of what's happening in the future. But the next class is on Friday. There's nothing for Thursday, but there's classes all week, most weeks, apart from the weekends. And again, there's nothing on Thursdays. It's sort of a day off. We don't do anything. So if you want to come along, Fedora, regularly, come along on the Wednesday. It's a free class, but Monday you have to pay something like about £2. Same again
Yes.
Tuesday. Now Monday tends to be the hardest class in that we pick out our. I think Michael comes along particularly, I think, because he likes that. I think. So I try to pick articles where the English is a little bit like this, a little bit like this. So it's quite testing. It might be quite hard, but
Mhm.
this is where you really learn things. I find.
Yeah,
I think you really
I
learn
know,
things.
that's why.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
B2, B1 normally, and I want to get Cambridge CELTA.
Oh, you're
So I
B21.
B1 or B2 in listening, but B1
Yeah.
in reading. So I get Cambridge assessment in 2019.
You get what
So
assistant? Sorry, say that again.
sorry, I get Cambridge assessments
Oh,
in
Cambridge assessments. Okay, Cambridge
Cambridge
assessments.
assessment in 2019. I
Oh,
get B1 in writing and B2 in listening. But
yeah.
today it's my goal to
Hmm.
teach English. So I
Hmm.
need first to improve my English,
Oh, okay.
and then to pass the CELTA, to be on level to pass the CELTA. At my
Okay.
I'm a little bit far, but
Um.
I it's my goal and
Hmm.
also a dream since I was young. I always
Hmm.
hope to speak English like native
Hmm.
native speakers. So I didn't learn a lot English. It was just 6 weeks in American Language Center when I was in high school. But now I come back to school and trying, but it's gonna be okay. You're a really good teacher. Really, I really appreciate this course because
Thank you.